Welcome, everybody. This is Matthew McQueeny from Konaverse. With me is my good friend, Dennis Augustine, partner here at Konaverse, CX architect, 6-time Sitecore MVP, and we are going to talk about a very big announcement today from Sitecore, where they released officially their Sitecore Experience Manager XM Cloud. Steve Tzikakis, who I think I had the pronunciation right there, is Sitecore CEO, and he had a very epic-sounding tweet where he said, "Today we announced the most significant milestone in Sitecore history, XM Cloud." Dennis, welcome. Could you talk about what this announcement was, what went into it, what it means?
Yeah, thanks, Matt. It was XM Cloud is Sitecore's step along the way to a fully SaaS content management platform offering. Now, we've been hearing that the future of Sitecore, most recently over the last few acquisitions that they've made, we've been hearing that this is a direction towards a composable digital experience platform sort of a strategy, which is really where I think the marketplace is going. So when, we've been in Sitecore for a while over at Konaverse, and so when we saw that direction emerging in the Sitecore roadmap, we were enthused because we've actually been ourselves a couple years ago starting to do much more composable Jamstack based solutions, and so we were excited about that, and it's been cooking for a while. And now Sitecore, what they've done is taken the core CMS platform, that's Sitecore Experience Platform, and the other part of that product is Sitecore Experience Management, or XM. Experience Platform being the one with all of the personalization features and everything else, and XM being the core content management part of that platform. Well, in order to get to that really composable and SaaS seem to be almost synonymous now, because in order to be really truly agile, you want to have very rapid ways of deploying your DXP infrastructure, very rapid ways of deploying to the cloud. And so the traditional model with Sitecore had been hosted either on-prem or on things like Microsoft Azure in PaaS, or platform as a service sort of configurations. That was a little bit bulkier. It's not truly the way that very lightweight, modern, composable solutions will be going. So on the roadmap, what they've done is to take that XM part of the product, the experience management, and port that to the cloud. And so that's what XM Cloud is about. It is XM essentially ported to the cloud. And we've also heard in this announcement today, which was one thing that surprised me actually, is we'll also have all of the WYSIWYG and personalization and the page composition elements that we've been hearing about for a while included in XM Cloud. So it's a big announcement. In terms of when folks can get it, though, I mean, that still is a little bit of not too clear on how we are going to be able to get our hands on it right away, but I hope that sort of messaging is forthcoming from Sitecore.
So we deal with customers all the time. What does this mean for current Sitecore customers? And maybe we break them into two buckets. Those that are several versions behind and might need an upgrade, and maybe those who are up to date but are looking towards this cloud SaaS-based reality.
Yeah, so certainly the ones who are several versions behind have been thinking about their upgrade path. And so if you are on a Sitecore versions, the earlier 9 and 8 versions, certainly your end of life is either soon to pass or soon to, or has passed a little while ago. So the end of mainstream support for that. So a lot of our customers are a little bit behind, and it's not uncommon in the Sitecore space for folks to be a few versions back, because with the old infrastructure models, upgrades were very onerous, and so it took a lot of effort to upgrade. So a lot of times customers would stay put for several versions and wait for a web redesign project in order to prompt them to do that upgrade. Well, a lot of IT companies, especially now with all of the recent, departments, with all of the recent challenges that we've been having with security, are saying we need to stay current with our support, and so an upgrade is necessary. If you've been hearing that, and if you've been hearing that from your IT department, and now you're faced with the need to upgrade, and all of a sudden Sitecore has thrown a wrench into it by saying, well, there's this new thing coming. I'm sure a lot of customers are wondering, should I upgrade my current XP instance to XM, or should I might call it a side grade, as my partner Cam likes to call that, because XP and XM are two slightly different products. Should I do that to get to XM Cloud? What is my path? So there's a bit of customers are going to be wondering what should they be doing about their upgrade. If you are somebody who is, up to date but looking ahead for your roadmap, certainly the question of when can I get my hands on XM Cloud, when, is it the right step for me? If you're thinking about you should be thinking about a composable future and staying with the Sitecore stack, then perhaps XM Cloud is that next step for you. But the question, we always pose as engineers is it really the right product choice? Now, we've been in the Sitecore space for a long time. At Konaverse, we've got a quarter of our company are Sitecore MVPs, and so we're very much committed to the product. But having said that, we also work with other content platforms, Contentful, Content, Content Stack, and so forth. So we really want to say, hold on, before you make those decisions around what will be at the core of your content strategy, of your content platform, for your digital platform, let's have a talk about what's the best fit for you. Because right now, we're getting a lot of, I won't want to say hype, but I mean, we are getting a lot of excitement, and it has to be self-serving excitement from vendors about their products being the next best thing in the right direction for you. But I think it's wise for customers to take a step back and really talk to engineers around what does this mean? Should we do that upgrade now? Should we wait a little bit and go to XM Cloud? Do we go from XP to XM as an intermediary step and then to XM Cloud? Or do we just decide to cut the cord and go straight to something else? I think it's interesting times ahead for sure for anybody who's faced with those decisions, whether you are many versions behind or looking forward to what's next.
In your position, you speak with a lot of decision makers, technical, marketing, in large organizations. How do you strategize and plot this discussion for Sitecore customers of how an upgrade works, how a pivot, maybe to headless works, whether it's in Sitecore or one of the big things with this composable marketplace is Sitecore is but one product on the block with others who might be able to vie and compete for those customers' wallets and hearts, if you will. How do you walk through that? It's really educational, I would imagine.
For sure. I think it is very educational, and I think that the first people that need to be educated are your technical and customer experience architects about what your goals are before those platform choices are made. So it's, when we hear about new products or upgrades, new releases, the temptation is to jump on to the bandwagon of there's a shiny new toy, we should go and get it because we need the latest, greatest. But ultimately, platform choices should follow the choices that you make around the purpose of your solution, what you're trying to achieve. It's this 5P framework that Ken and I have been talking about for a while, which is the purpose and problem of your business problem, the purposes of your interactions with your customers. How are your people working today? Does the solution that you currently have work well for them? Do the certain pieces that your marketing team is used to working with, are those suitable for them right now? Before you get to then analyzing the processes that you typically use in your marketing, what your end state should be, and then you talk about your platform. So I really would want folks to educate themselves, yes, about the products, but if you're on the roadmap to composable especially, and you should be, it is really about taking a step back and thinking about all of the things that precede that before you start making platform choices. And certainly I would, again, advise folks to make platform choices in consultation with customer experience and technical architects before you start going out to get sales pitches from the various vendors, no matter how exciting the new shiny toy might seem.
And I think much to the point that you were speaking of there with the 5 Ps, the issue with a pivot approach in composable DXP is really, if you think about it in a monolithic way, you can get completely overwhelmed, paralyzed by the decisions before you. But on the flip side, composability allows you to quickly pivot and pilot on any single layer of your stack to kind of test it out. Is that what the balance of that conversation can come down to?
I think it can, and I think that what you've kind of alluded to is taking out a particular piece and then piloting that. So that is a gradual transition towards composability, and Matt, you and I have talked about this before, this evolution towards composability rather than a revolution. Just because there is this new thing released, don't think that your next move needs to be a wholesale redesign of your whole customer experience platform, because that is a revolution, and we know that revolutions are not without martyrs, and your team does not want to be one. And so we really want to look at what is the highest value change that we can make. Where are the problems in our processes, the bottlenecks? Are we having a content platform issue? Are the highest value things that we can do right now with regards to doing that personalization that we have not done for the last few years? Is that the highest value thing? So I think those things need to be all considered, and then to make the gradual transition and piloting certain changes to your platform along the way gradually can be a good way of doing that for sure.
I know that there were so many people interested in this conversation. Last question is, what's the next step?
Well, the next step, I think, is, as we said, to just pause, because once Steve just threw the wrench in the works when it came to your plans. I think, if you weren't paying attention during the acquisitions and had not been clued into there being, if you're a Sitecore customer, there being a real shift afoot in the roadmap, this announcement and the excitement and focus, single-minded focus of Sitecore towards composability to a headless approach should make every customer, especially customers who are on XP, XM in that monolithic way, take a pause before you decide whether you're going to upgrade, whether it's time to maybe change a little bit of a piece or to perhaps pivot. Upgrades are large efforts, especially if you're a big brand. So you have a number of options, a number of permutations of decisions that you should be making. So I think the first thing is just to stop and think, and then consult somebody who can be a guide for you in that decision making. And of course, we at Konaverse, we've been in composable for a while. We've been in Sitecore for quite a while. We've been working with wonderful platforms like Content and Contentful and Content Stack. And so we don't have a horse in the vendor race, but we're really here for our customer to help guide them through that decision-making process.
Look before you leap, pause before you pivot. Talk to Konaverse if you're unsure. Thanks, Dennis.
Pleasure, Matt. Good talking to you.